Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the week 3 video update for FAFL. Woo! So, let's get started. Hopefully this will be relatively brief. I do have a lot to say because there's a lot of things that have happened, a lot of things that are going to happen. It's heating up, it's getting crazy, so I'll try and get through what I need to get through in a decent amount of time. So, start off with something light to start. The poll of the week results. So last week I asked everybody which team would be getting their first win in week 2. It was a 4-way tie across all 4 choices. So no one team really stood out, which actually was pretty accurate because nearly all 4 teams really did get their first win in week 2, with the exception of the original Annihilators, which we will talk about her and her team in just a moment. But first, with that being said, let's dissect what happened last week. Talk about the results first. So, Afraidy of the Brady, Angie and her team, defeated Cool Breeze, my team. So, and they defeated, what was the score? 125 to 92. So, a pretty sizable point difference. That's okay. That's okay. It's in the past. Another sizable point difference was the game between the Master of Mystery and Team I Don't Know, 127 to 91. So about the same point differential, little more there. The only game that was like pretty dang close, and also both teams scored over 100 points, was what I would consider the game of the week, was the Bumbling Stumble Bums and the original Annihilators. And that was 137 to 119. So, that's what happened last week. So let's talk about that. And the way I think is the most organized way, would be to separate it in 3 categories I like to call the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's start with the good. The good has everything to do with the Bumbling Stumble Bums. My father and his team are on a dominant winning streak right now. 2-0, and even though it's only week 2, so it's kind of weird to call it dominant. It's pretty cool to see, knowing that he didn't win a single game last season, and now he's winning, and not just winning, but he's winning with very large point totals every week. And I'll talk more about what that means for the league in just a moment. But what's really cool is ESPN, which is what we're using, keeps on doubting his team. They keep on giving him low projections. Week 1 they did, week 2 they did. Even this week, they're giving him, they're still projecting him to win, but only by 10 points, when he's been winning by decent amounts. And so, I consider this a good thing, because this just proves that projections, they cannot define your team. And if you feel like, and I guess that's good and bad, because sometimes you're projected to win, but you don't win, and that sucks. But, considering we'll see what happens. Maybe the projections will be right for him this week. But this just goes to show that even though he's being projected very low, that he is overcoming the odds, which can happen to anyone. That being said, let's talk about the bad. So we got the good, here's the bad. Now this streak that the Bums, I'm going to call them the Bums, that the Bums are on is very much bad for the rest of the league. I don't really need to say too much why, but 2-0 isn't a great thing for people like me, and especially people who are 0-2, like the Annihilators. And so this is especially bad when they have many points. I wrote this down. The Bums currently have 311 points total. The person with the second highest points is actually the Annihilators with 249. So that's about 60 points separating the person with the most points and the second most points, which is kind of scary, especially when the Annihilators are 0-2, so they're the furthest away from the 2-0 that the Bums have. So with that, it's scary. So obviously the Bums are going to have an advantage when it comes to things like tied records, which are happening right now, but they're bound to happen throughout the whole season. So he's not tied with anyone right now, but his point total is going to help out with that. So although it's good for him, it's bad for the rest of the league, because we're going to have to do a little extra scrambling to not only beat his 2-0 record, but outscore him. And then we'll get to the ugly. So we got the good, got the bad. Here's the ugly. The Annihilators. So my mother and her team have been on a losing streak. They've been one of the biggest threats. Her and her team have been the biggest threat of FAFL across every single season. They won season 1. They were the number 3 seed in season 2. They were in the championship game, almost beat Killer T last season. And now she's 0-2, which is hard to watch. And, you know, I took a look back at the past seasons, and she has never started 0-2. She's at least gone 1-1. I don't know if she's ever started 2-0, but she's at least has won one of the 2 games of her first 2 weeks. So it's never fun to start at 0-2, that's for sure. But it's certainly not the end, because in season 2, the champion of that season was 6-6, which isn't not a great record. That was me, by the way. So although you are starting, if you're watching this, my mother and the Annihilators, 0-2 is not the end of the world. It does start to get scary when you go maybe 0-3, 0-4. Just ask the Bums. But although this news is ugly, it does have potential to have an upturn and turn into something positive. As a wise man once said, winning is one thing, but winning at the right time is what creates champions. I just made that. So that being said, let's talk about what's gonna happen. So that's the good, the bad, the ugly. Next week's matches, we got Cool Breeze versus the original Annihilators. I don't know versus the Bumbling Stumble Bums, and Freddy the Brady versus Master of Mystery. Here is the game of the week. It's I Don't Know versus the Bumbling Stumble Bums, for reasons that I've already kind of talked about. But no matter what happens with the other 2 games, one team's going to go 2-1, one team is going to go 1-2. Pretty basic stuff. But with this daughter versus father matchup, Sierra's team has the potential to change everything, because a loss for the Bums can bring them back down with the rest of the league, making the race for the number 1 seed even more competitive, because they'll be brought down to 2-1 rather than 3-0. If the Bums go 3-0, it's just going to make it a lot harder for everybody else. So as a league manager, I can't pick sides. I cannot do that to my fellow teams. But as an opponent, I really hope Sierra wins this week. All right, everybody, that's everything. Hope you stayed for this entire video, and I will see ya later.